Hey man, say man, get out your own way, man. Because I know for a fact to some of y'all right now that's listening to this that you in your own way. You've been wanting to move somewhere different. You've been wanting to change your pace. You wanting to be in a different environment, meet different people. You really want to be in a place to where it's like you can start over. Everything is new, especially from my folks that's around my age, younger 20s up to your 30s. Like you really want to live your best fucking life. You really want to evolve and feel that you can be your best self, and you feel as if where you're at, what you're around, is holding you back. But you've been contemplating multiple times about moving somewhere else, but there's a bit of a fear there. Or there may not necessarily be a fear, you just ain't done it. But I'll tell you about my experience and how I started thinking different and what early on just allowed me to prepare myself to get to an environment like this. So moving to New York didn't start in New York for me. My environment early on put me in a mindset where I'm like, there's no way I can see myself here for the rest of my life. And there's nothing wrong with if you want to stay in a smaller town. There's nothing wrong if you want to be in a big environment for the rest of your life. But I do think that everyone should experience being able to live somewhere different than what they grew up at, somewhere different than what they're used to. Like an experience that allows you to be free and see the world differently for what the world is, but more importantly, allows you to evolve into a different version. And early on, when I was in high school, I was able, even we could take it back to like elementary and middle school, like I was able to be a part of organizations, academic programs that allowed me to experience things on a different scale. So even though at the time I didn't understand what that means as far as from what I wanted to do in my life later on, what it would mean to live in another environment. It allowed me to be able to see things on a different scale. Being a part of the beta clubs when I was in school, being a part of different academic programs. By me, even outside of just having the grades to do it, by me being interested in a lot of different outlets, like it allowed me to explore my creative mind. And it was oftentimes as far as like when I would share things with my parents, like they're like, "Nah, DeMarcus, we can't do that. We can't afford that, or however." But we also have to not we can't put too much we can't put too much on our parents because for their generations a lot of how they were moving is new, and so they're going to be able to share things with us or parent us in the best way that they knew how to. So you can't put like the full blame on your parents, and that's why as you get older you have to put yourself out of the comfort zone to be able to experience some of those things that you may not have not got to experience while you're young, but allow yourself to evolve into a new version. And I'll speak a bit about that, but specifically, like I said, I was involved in academic programs, even in middle school and stuff was like that. It was funny because when I went to middle school, like to Madison Middle back in Richmond, Kentucky, which for y'all that don't know, Richmond, Kentucky is like a really small town, less than 30,000 people. I think 70 to 80% of the population is white, but funny enough, most of my friends that I had was black, and I had like a few white friends. But when I think about Madison Middle from sixth to seventh grade, most of the people that I remember conversing with, majority of the time was black kids. And Richmond has a history of black excellence and just black businesses, restaurants, and everything back in the days. At one point, it was known for being the top party school in the world, which was from EKU because Eastern Kentucky University is there. But you hear stories where elders used to tell you about like all the black restaurants, clubs, and different businesses that were down on Main Street and there's all these other areas. But unfortunately, over time, like businesses couldn't keep up. You obviously had the different things that happened in recessions and all the stuff that was taken from us and everything before that. So when you think about just places where you grew up from, like understanding that there's black excellence and understanding that there's more can oftentimes start in the environments that you're in, but sometimes because history can be erased or because people have just gotten into places of comfort, the only thing that people can really focus on is memories, and there's not much being pushed forward as far as saying like, hey, you can go out there and achieve something to this level, or you can achieve more than this environment. But a lot of people just kind of like, hey, it was what it was. Things have died down, so we don't really have much to push forward to the next generations. You got to figure it out yourself. And for me, that was like, it's interesting the older that I get, and I actually want to take a lot more time to understand the history that was for Blackness really in Kentucky as a whole, but definitely back home in Richmond, and I would say even Lexington because it was closer. But I do think that as far as an individual, like when you hear stories about the excellence, that should, for me, it always put a excitement in me to be like, man, I wonder how much more of the world has this type of excellence outside of where I'm from. But the bigger thing was like, how do I allow myself to not just be a product of this environment? How do I allow myself to be able to experience more? Because I know there's got to be more out there. So I remember in high school, like towards the end of high school, where I was a part of like FBLA, which is the Future Business Leaders of America, and I had the opportunity to be able to be a part of certain challenges that they had. You'd have like a regional, district, and state level, and then I ended up winning all the way until I got to the state. And that allowed me to be able to understand how to interview and just being in a different type of space. Even though we went to the Galt House and it was in Louisville, like that still allowed me to be in a different environment that I was from, but also doing things that elders and people around me just didn't speak about. Like guys that I knew, girls that I knew that were older than me, like that people weren't speaking about these different programs and stuff you can get involved in. So I had the opportunity to also be a part of African American male initiative that Coach Velmar had created, and it was a chance for us to be able to get together as young black men and then be able to go to EKU's campus where they had like some different university programs, and us as high school students, like you got a chance to be able to see fine dining while you're in high school. Being able to see, like, learn about etiquette and being able just to being in a space where there's full buffets and top quality meals, but you're also listening to provost and deans and things speak and people that are doing dope stuff speak. And you also, that helps you to be in a position to learn how to connect and how to be able to just put yourself out there. And you're just seeing all these different layers of life. And at least for me, I'm seeing that and just being like, man, this is dope. I got the chance to like wear a suit and a tie and it be something to where it's like, some of the events we were going to were just like black focused. So I got a chance to be able to see like blackness on a different type of scale. Like, hey, this is different. So I remember even like when it came to scholarship wise, like I can remember the day where we had like the scholarship ceremony, and my parents and my aunt came out. They were like, man, DeMarcus, you have more scholarships than anybody. And what I did was when I was in high school, like I went to online and check out all these like local places, banks and everything that was giving out scholarships, and I applied. And that is true. Like people ain't gonna remember, but my parents can vividly, and I have when I go back home, I'm gonna have to find the picture, but I have all the awards, and like I went up on stage, I can't even tell you how many times, but it was like all combined, like some people may have had more money or dollars that they were getting in regards to how much the scholarship was worth, but I had the most. And that was an early piece of how I knew that as far as putting in work, I wasn't afraid to put in work because I went out and got all those scholarships. You know what I'm saying? The Woodford Porter Scholarship was a black scholarship at the University of Louisville. That was one where nobody had told me about that. Even people that I knew that had went to U of L, like nobody was speaking on that. Nobody came back and talked about that. So I found that out for myself, and I applied my junior year, got it. It was a full academic scholarship with a little bit of a stipend. So that was huge because my parents didn't have the money to send me to college like that, or they would have found a way, but it wouldn't have been where they couldn't be able to be comfortable in a sense. They have their own stuff going on. So being able to do that, and also kind of going back with that black program I was telling you with Coach Velmar, we got a chance to go down to Atlanta, and then we went for Atlanta for the day. That was different because I hadn't even really traveled like that before. So going to Atlanta, then we got a chance to visit Morehouse. That was my first time ever being on HBCU campus. And when we were there, we were thinking like, because he said they told us it's an all boys school and Spelman was right next door. As young boys, you're like, man, I ain't trying to go to all guys school. That sounds weird. Da da da. And he'd even said at that point, like, if somebody's really interested in going to Morehouse, there may be a way where I can get y'all here for free. Now, and what I know, I'm like, man, that would have been incredible. You know what I'm saying? But I still would never take away from my University of Louisville experience because that was phenomenal. But when you think about like just not being in spaces of understanding certain things, like being able to have those opportunities early on, I didn't take it for granted, but I didn't fully understand like the prominence of that type of opportunity. But when I went to the University of Louisville, I mean, the dope thing about my experience is I was around like my people. So I had a few, like most of the people I hung around was like black people all day long. And for a PWI, like that was an amazing experience. But to not get too far sidetracked from the conversation. So when I had thought about going to the University of Louisville, I was so excited to be able to go get out of my town. Again, less than 30,000 people, but I also wanted to be able to learn about more about DeMarcus. And I felt like there was so many different elements in which I was able to just tap into. And I just knew where I was from was going to hold me back. Like, hold me back. Going to EKU, I was like, hell no. Like EKU, that's literally the only thing that's there. And then most of the time, if people try to do something fun, they're probably going to Lexington or even coming to Louisville or going out of town to like Nashville because, I mean, there ain't shit to do there. And at the time when I was in high school, I mean, people were throwing like a lot of house parties, but that kind of shifted, you know? But moving to Louisville was a move where I was super excited about. I didn't even think twice about it. Plus, I got a full academic scholarship. They gave me the most money, so I'm like, hell yeah, I ain't about to go to the University of Kentucky. And when I'm a Louisville fan too, in UK, they ain't really got no like black population like that compared to Louisville. So I was like, man, Louisville is the move. So I remember when I first got to the University of Louisville, and before actually starting classes, they had a early arrival program where you'd go there for a day, and that day allowed you to be able to spend the night on campus, get a feel of campus, and then schedule your classes, like your pre-classes with a advisor. So from there, you talk about coming on campus. I was hyped, and I was like, dang, I can make my own decisions without my parents being here. Then as a young boy, I'm coming in here, and I ain't in high school, I didn't have no experiences like that. Like maybe, kissing a girl, that's about it. Like I didn't do anything. You know what I'm saying? Then I'm coming to, I'm looking at, and as far as even like types of women, like there wasn't really barely any black girls at our school. And then you may be related to somebody you just don't know. But when I seen at the early arrival program, the girls at Louisville, I said, I'm in a whole different universe. And there was even women of other ethnicities. I was like, they attractive as well. I'm attracted to them too. But the black women, I said, bruh, this is different. So I'm already thinking at that point, like, man, I can only imagine how it is at an HBCU. Like, imagine if you would have went to Howard. Like, boy, I would have been in some trouble. But now at the University of Louisville, I was like, man, this is gonna be different. I just even remember like the experience in that one day, girls coming up and talking to me, and me just having different conversations with some cool fellas, people that I'd seen hooping and stuff in the city, in the state, and all that. So it just felt different because I'm like, I ain't even had these type of conversations or experiences for real, like in my day to day. So this felt different. The only thing that was kind of close was when my dad kind of took me to the Roots and Heritage Festivals in Lexington. I didn't really hang out in Lexington like that because he wanted me to kind of stay away from all the chaos. But besides like hooping and all that, like I wasn't really outside with nobody. And I didn't really have like a whole lot of friends I was hanging out with or going to parties and stuff because my parents wouldn't let me. And for damn sure they weren't going to let me just be in no girls' houses and stuff like that. So when I got to the early arrival program, I said, oh my God, this finna be night and day. So anyways, like kind of fast forwarding through the college experience, because I know I've talked about this a little bit on my previous episodes, and I may even do something kind of speaking about involvement in high school and then college to kind of more so speak about like how I was getting involved in college versus going into that, and then also speaking about like me moving. I think that's kind of like two different conversations, and it may go on for forever. But so yeah, I went to U of L, and during there, just had a chance to be able to meet so many different types of people, be able to find myself, and just be able to learn about different experiences. And you just hear about people going and doing study abroad. You get a chance to kind of hear about people just coming from different environments, different countries, and so that allows you just to be able to see that there's more depth in where you come from. But I can't lie, you did see a good amount of folks that were from Kentucky that stayed there, not anywhere close to them. Well, yeah, because tuition would be cheaper if you're from, live in Kentucky, especially if you live in Louisville. It's going to be cheaper for a resident of the state. So it's going to be the tuition, in-state tuition is always going to be cheaper. But I would say like where I really started to see a difference was when I got a chance from college to be able to be a part of go on different trips and just be in different spaces. Like when I was at Sprint, hell, I got a chance while I was working in college, won 3 years, uh, was top in the nation for 3 years straight. Won an award where I got to go to President's Club. That was in San Antonio, Texas. So being able to do something like that for the first time, never had been to San Antonio. That was fire. Then, shoot, when was that? That was while I was in. I got the call while I was in class. Then being able just to when some friends and I, when we go like to Michigan and just go to different areas to be able to travel like outside of school, like that was fire because you get a chance to go to different universities and meet people and stuff like that. There was a few other trips and stuff that I did, but it just allowed me to think differently, and I got a chance to meet people that were also, and some friends that I knew that were living in different areas after they graduated, or they always had the goals to do that. For me, when it came to living specifically in New York, I always, like, New York was just never the end game for me. Let me say it like that. I always knew that I wanted to be out of Kentucky. And because of my experiences and as I continue to evolve, like, I really, really wanted to be out of Kentucky when college ended. Like, before, I was just like, hey, I'm going to go to the University of Louisville. I don't want to stay in Kentucky. But then because of my experiences in college and me being able to see the world in a different type of way, it introduced me to thinking even broader than just going to any just different city out of Kentucky. I was like, I want to be in a big city. And so I honestly didn't know where I was going to be. When I found out about my brother, I was like, oh, okay, that may be kind of cool to be kind of closer to Dallas. I had a friend that stayed in Dallas and stuff. I'm like, that may be kind of cool because like UNT, if I go to business school, I know they got a top business school. I'm like, hey, I could be closer to my bro. Then I had friends that were like in other bigger cities, and I met people that were just in different environments, and I was just like, you know what? I don't know where I could be at. But then when I got a chance to visit some friends when they lived in New York, I was just like, yeah, this seemed different. Like, friend, he was going to work. And when I came to visit he was going to work throughout the week because at the time you had to work in the office. And so when I came to visit, I was just like dolo. And that was my first time like being dolo in a big city like that. Because even again, when I was at Sprint, when I first started working at Sprint, like I got a chance to ride up to Indianapolis for the first time. You know what I'm saying? There's all these other areas I got a chance to go to in these like smaller trips. But me being in New York, like that was a time for me to kind of like move how I wanted to and figure things out because again, friend was at work. So when I got a chance to, because I came actually to New York earlier that year for the first time, and it was a decent trip. Like it was okay. I didn't feel like it was that good to me. Like it was some other personnel, and the reason why I didn't really fuck with it. But later that year, when I came down up Dolo to visit, like by myself to visit the friend, I was like, okay, I get a chance to kind of experience it in a different type of way. And so when I just seen how much was going on, all the stuff that was going on, just all the stuff you can get involved in. I'm still saying stuff and things, so I'm working on that. When I seen like all these events you can go to, all the people, and just getting on Eventbrite and looking at certain events, I was like, this is what's going to push me out of my comfort zone. Because even parts of me checking out events, like I love getting out, I love being able to speak to people and meet people, but there was still a part of me holding myself back because I'm like, I don't really know certain people. Like I don't just want to pull up at a random event. Like I still had to really kind of shake some of those nerves that I had as far as getting out of my comfort zone, because even in times in college and high school where I would get myself out of my comfort zone, it wasn't always a thing that was just like easy or simple for me. People would see it as that because of how I would smile and because of the energy which I would showcase. But I mean, I used to be like sweating so much, like meeting new people, speaking at events, like it was bad. Like, but oftentimes you learn how to be able to evolve. I can't forget this before I move on. A big event that changed it for me was Black Achievers. We had that in Indianapolis when I was in high school. That was a chance for me to meet people from Minnesota, all these other environments. Hell, I damn near fell in love with this a Somalian woman. Like I got a chance to meet some, and that was the first time of meeting like a plethora of folks from a different background. But I got a chance to meet like some Somalian Eritrean people. Shout out to my girl Asia. Like we still cool to this day. I ain't seen her since then, but we stay connected because she does business stuff where she lives in Minnesota. She got her own brand, and that was a chance too to even see other cultures. Like she's Muslim. All the people there, they were pretty much Muslim, and that was just cool. Before you even got to college to kind of see like how people interact and move. But I will say like that conference was the first time that I ever got kind of comfortable talking to a girl. I remember they had the one part of the session where it was like, hey, we're going to stop everybody, talk to somebody that you don't know or you've never seen before. I remember like a couple of girls came up and talked to me, and I was like kind of shook at first, but then I felt comfortable after having the conversation because it was also like my people, um, folks from different areas, but it's also like, wow, I'm seeing some women or that's beautiful as heck. I'm like, man, I'm about to go into my senior year of high school next year. So shoot, this is giving me something to look forward to. And then shoot, if I'm planning to go to Louisville as well too, like I'm seeing stuff from all these different angles. So then fast forward to when I'm speaking about New York, that was just a little intermission there. But when I got a chance to be able to see different cultures and just kind of seeing the energy and everything before the pandemic, I said, I gotta be here. So folks were telling me that before I moved that things had changed a lot with New York after the pandemic, because the pandemic shook up the whole world, obviously. But the way people were describing New York was just like it was different before then. But the friends that had lived in New York and another friend of ours, my boy Dave, like we just decided to all live together. And um, when we when we had talked about that, I was just like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm cool with it. At the time, like my job that I had, I was getting paid like really low. I think it was like 55 base or something like that, and commission. If you did get commission, I'm like, man, it's gonna be tough for me to survive in New York. So I was trying to like spend as much as I could. I mean, not spend, trying to save as much as I could to prepare for the move. Now, here's something that kind of like this is where getting out of your comfort zone is big. Oftentimes when you think about moving, especially the elders are going to tell you save as much money as you can and then make the move. Like make sure that you're super prepared. That was not the case for me because when coming out of college for Sprint, like I had a little bit of debts, but then also too, like I had needed some money while I was back home because before I had moved back home during the pandemic, I was just like, I ain't got no cheese since I left the job like that. So I ended up taking a loan out and had some money. But then that's the first time where I learned like about how serious it is as far as paying stuff back, but then also how you got to make payments and everything like that. So I was already behind a little bit in my finances. So I had a job, and then that job during the pandemic, like it just was bad. Like it was just a shitty type of job. Cool company as far as like what it stood for, but like the direct manager and then the other like co-manager, like they were just trash. So anyway, so that experience ended. So that was my first time really having to go through unemployment, right? And then during the pandemic, as y'all know, like the unemployment and stuff was pretty nice. So I was sitting pretty solid on dollars, but I'm still having to pay stuff down and all that. So as far as like handling my money, like it's just some things that I had to work on there, and then ended up landing another job. But by the time that I got prepared to move to New York, I only had like $1,500 or like $2,000, and so that's not much at all because a big thing is you got to have a little bit of money to be able to put down on the deposit and all that. So like me coming to New York only having like 1,500, 2,000, that wasn't nothing because I just spent, I don't know how much, was it 1,500 or so on the deposit, and then maybe had to do the first month's rent. So you're talking about $3,000. And so I think at the time my parents are probably maybe thinking like, okay, the market's going to be solid, but I really wasn't solid like they thought that I was. Like I was kind of like really, really stuck bad. When I had, let me see, let me get the exact dates on this. So when that happened, right? When I said to myself that I was going to move to New York, I was like, we're going to do this. And it was good, to be able to have some friends that had already lived in New York before. But I just knew for myself I wanted to be in a different environment. And because I did have friends that I was going to be living with, like, even though the rent price, was like 14.25 is expensive, you could have got something cheaper in another environment. I was like, this is a place that I've been to for sure, where I feel as if I can be able to truly find myself. And it's going to challenge me to see life in a different type of way. Like I said, barely coming to New York, I think it was either 1,500 or 2,000, maybe even less than that. And the tough thing is, I was paycheck to paycheck because the job that I had wasn't paying much. So in getting to New York, you talk about on a $55,000 salary, and that's not including when taxes are taken out. I'm like, man, this is finna be tough. So literally, right before I had gotten there, what was let's see, I was yeah, literally before I had gotten to New York, I had gotten a new job, and actually, what's funny, I think that the new job that I got was maybe like, what was it? Was it like for? It may have been like $4,000 or something less, but I'm pretty for certain that no, that's what happened because of the layoff that I had. Then I had to I didn't have a job, so I ended up getting a job right before I moved. That's what it was. So the money and stuff that I had to spend, that's why I ended up. So it's registering back to me now. The money that I had from the pandemic, and then also because of unemployment, that was the money I was taking care of some other debts. But then I didn't have a job yet. So I didn't actually get a job until right before I moved. So you're talking about the money I had saved. I'm like, man, I got to put this down on the down payment and the first month's rent. So I was struggling. So luckily, I had gotten a job right before I moved. And so the job was like similar salary to the previous one, but the opportunity to level up and everything with commission was just going to be helpful. So, I'm really moving kind of just like living off of like a half of a paycheck. So one paycheck's going towards like pretty much rent. And then, no, yeah, the other one's going to bills and stuff like that. So I may be having like a little bit over $1,000 coming off of each paycheck. But still, like being a young guy, like you got to know how to be able to finance properly, and being able to, as a young person in general, know how to take care of yourself and know how to properly handle money. So just for me moving and everything, that put me in a different type of mindset to say, you know what, like DeMarcus, you've taken that one uncomfortable step, and that's by getting it done by any means. Like you said that you wanted to move somewhere, you said that you wanted something different, and forget even just your friends having their own experiences. You wanted to be in a place where you feel like this could be able to show you a different type of way. And yeah, I had friends that were telling about their experiences, but I knew that even when I got there, I knew that I was going to be moving different, because when I got a chance to meet, some of their friends and stuff, like it wasn't my crowd of people per se, but I got a chance to be able to explore and get out. So ended up being a part of a program called club called the Gathering Spot. Was able to meet hella people in there, people of different ages. I would say like the age range is probably 5 to 10 years older than me as far as for the people that were in there, but it was one of the most fabulous experiences. And just by me taking the time to sit with myself and say, you want DeMarcus, you want to be in a different place. Let's make it happen. That changed everything for me. And yeah, there was uncomfortable times. When you first move, there's going to be that part of like things are different. I may not connect with people I used to connect with. You're probably going to feel on the island by yourself. You're going to feel alone because you don't know anyone. But this city here is so big. The way in which people move, like it's fast paced. People are, they want what they want, and it just moves very fast. But once you start finding like different communities to be a part of, and even outside of that, once you find different events you can go to, like you start to find your own way. And I even seen that, like, with the friends that I had, like they didn't really like a lot of the same things that I did. And even as far as for like the spaces that we went to was the same stuff. And I'm like, I'm ready to evolve. And that wasn't until like later as far as living in New York more. But the biggest thing was I just trusted in myself that we were going to figure it out. And I just knew that with myself and how the person that I was building into, that my life is meant for more. And the biggest part about moving out was to not be afraid. I couldn't let myself be in the fear. I couldn't let myself, listen to certain conversations that I had with elders and them being like, I don't know about that. Or people saying, hey, you got to have this amount of money to move and everything. Like, I had to get past that because many people didn't trust in themselves or believe in themselves to do something that was uncomfortable. But DeMarcus did. And even though it's been uncomfortable as far as the journey, which I'll talk about, I still took time out of my days to sit with myself and say, you know what? You can't let that stop you. Because if you let this stop you, imagine when you want to do some things that's entrepreneurship in the future, different goals that you have, what you going to do? Let somebody else that hasn't went through what you went through stop you? And oftentimes, like what would happen with me is, even if it wasn't the same exact experience, you'd have where folks will try to use their experience to relate to you in a certain type of way. There's nothing wrong with that sometimes, but it's when people would do that but won't let you live. And I had to say that to my parents. I was just like, hey, like, you may have lived in a different environment, Dad. You may have went through certain things, Mom, but like, you can't compare your experience to what I'm trying to do because you haven't done it in this type of way. You haven't moved to New York City. You haven't moved to the most expensive city and then also lived in an environment where there's thousands of people that you walk into daily where you know nothing and you're trying to make a life for yourself in this environment. You haven't done that. But it was more than just trying to say it to them and try to make them hear what I was saying. It was me believing it for myself. And that was the biggest thing from going from Richmond, Kentucky to Louisville to New York. It's like, as you continue to go along the journey, you learn by experiencing life. You learn by connecting with folks and communicating that you want more. And I bring all those stories together to kind of give a background about how I evolved a bit. But as you continue to elevate, it puts you in a space where you're like, man, I want more. And I know that there's more out there. When I came to New York and I was in the gathering spot and hearing people talk about like using credit card points, going to different countries, like that was the first time where I've seen people talk about going to so many different countries and being able to go on these different trips and just taking time like it was nothing. It was just like, hey, I'm using my points. Shit, I'm taking off. I get a chance to work on unlimited PTO. Like, I'm learning all this. But it stems from DeMarcus being able to take himself out of that comfort zone. And in doing that, it's going to be uncomfortable as fuck. Don't get me wrong, like, it's going to be crazy. But the more that you allow yourself to do a little bit at a time, the more that you continue to see the confidence that you're building. And plus, you already know how it is when people talk about what they couldn't do and what you shouldn't do. You already know that. The biggest thing you got to do is just allow yourself to lean forward. If you believe in God, allow yourself to trust in Him and align with Him. And that can be hard for somebody to say that to you, because in trusting Him, it's about like releasing the anxiety and the fear and stuff like that. But it's actually going through a life experience to understand it's going to be all right versus somebody just telling you, hey, it's going to be all right, baby. It's going to be, nigga, I need to go through this experience to understand that it's actually going to be all right. And that's what I did. Because after I got the one job, got paid on a low salary, my salary damn near doubled the next year once I applied to a different job during that summer. So imagine what my mindset was then. You're talking about the salary almost doubling. Now I'm not just living in New York, I could actually live in New York. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when we were going out and stuff like that, like, I told some friends later, I was budgeting the whole time. A lot of the shit we were doing, I couldn't really pay for that. But at the same time, like, I knew for myself that I wanted to keep on pushing through. And then the next year when I got that new job, it was different. And I ended up getting laid off and was laid off for a couple of years until I've recently got my new job. But like, still, the part of me being able to move and me being able to make it happen, like, that was different. And so in the next episode, I'll talk about like how I continue to evolve and then how I look back at times and just am so proud of myself as far as the changes that I made. And then I'll even talk about like living on my own in New York, like, which I've spoken about in previous episodes in regards to the tough seasons that I've been through. But I kind of give y'all the full rundown of like what that even meant, because it may not have made much sense as far as some of the details that I didn't describe in those episodes. So stay locked in. We'll be back.